The silence in space was broken only by the strange humming of twisted reality. Emperor Vashtok stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the human fleet through the warped space between them. For the first time in 3 centuries, he felt something he had forgotten: uncertainty. "Open a channel to the human command ship," he ordered. Captain Morrison appeared on the main screen of the Dominion Eternal. Behind him, the bridge of the UE's Liberty showed humans working calmly at their stations, as if bending reality was something they did every day. "I am Emperor Vashtok of the Valyrian Empire," the ancient alien said. "I have ruled for 300 years. I have conquered 50 star systems. No species has ever forced me to call for a ceasefire." "Then today is a day of firsts," Morrison replied calmly. The Emperor's yellow eyes studied the human captain. "Your weapons should not exist. What you are doing violates every known law of physics. Maybe your laws were incomplete." Dr. Amanda Price stepped into view beside Morrison. "Emperor, we've been monitoring your communications. Your scientists call our technology impossible because they think reality is fixed. But humans learn something different." "What did you learn?" "That reality responds to consciousness. That imagination can reshape the universe. That refusing to accept limits actually removes them." Emperor Vashtok felt another wave of human thoughts wash over him through the quantum fields. He experienced memories that weren't his own. A human child looking at the stars and dreaming of flying between them. Scientists working for decades on problems everyone said couldn't be solved. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they believed extraordinary things were possible. "This chaos you call thinking," the Emperor said slowly. "How do you control it?" "We don't," Dr. Price replied. "That's the point. Other species try to impose order on the universe. Humans learn to work with chaos instead. We found out that chaos is more powerful than order." On Earth, Dr. Nathan Webb monitored the quantum cascade as it reached levels that should have been impossible to maintain. But 3,000 human operators throughout the solar system kept the field stable through pure force of will. Each one was imagining reality as they wanted it to be, and somehow reality was listening. "Nathan," Dr. Lisa Chun said quietly, "the cascade is holding steady, but I'm reading something strange." "What kind of strange?" "The Valyrian ships aren't just trapped in our quantum fields anymore. They're starting to be changed by them. The human consciousness patterns are affecting their technology." Webb looked at his displays and saw what she meant. Valyrian ships were beginning to phase in and out of normal space, even though they had no quantum technology. Human thoughts were literally rewriting the aliens' understanding of what was possible. Emperor Vashtok felt his worldview cracking. Like old armor, everything he had believed about the natural order, about the superiority of advanced technology, about the weakness of primitive species, was proving wrong. "Why do you fight us?" he asked Captain Morrison. "The Empire offers order, stability, an end to the chaos of independent civilizations." "Because chaos isn't something to be feared," Morrison replied. "It's something to be embraced. You see chaos and think it needs to be controlled. We see chaos and think it needs to be explored. But without order, there is only destruction." Dr. Price shook her head. "Without chaos, there is only stagnation. Your empire has been the same for 1,000 years. You've stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped dreaming. You've become so focused on maintaining order that you forgot why order was supposed to matter." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Through the quantum fields, he could feel the thoughts of billions of humans on Earth below. Each one was different, chaotic, unpredictable. But together, they created something more powerful than any. Technology, the absolute certainty that impossible things could become possible. "What do you want from us?" he finally asked. "Nothing," President Hayes said. her image appearing beside Morrison and Price. "We don't want to conquer your empire. We don't want to rule other species. We just want to be left alone to explore the universe in our own chaotic way. And if the empire refuses?" President Hayes looked directly at the ancient alien ruler. "Then we'll show the galaxy that even the mightiest empire can fall when it meets people who refuse to believe in limitations." Emperor Vashtok understood the threat wasn't empty. He had seen human ships move through time and space like they were walking through water. He had felt human consciousness rewrite the laws of physics through pure, stubborn determination. Most terrifying of all, he had experienced human hope, the belief that any problem could be solved if you just refused to give up. "The Empire will not surrender," he said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. "We're not asking you to surrender," Morrison replied. "We're asking you to change, to remember that the universe is big enough for different ways of thinking." The Emperor closed his eyes and felt the quantum fields carrying human thoughts throughout. His fleet, his own officers, were beginning to question everything they had believed about the natural order. Some were even starting to dream of possibilities they had never imagined. "You have won this battle," he said finally. "But the Empire has 1,000 fleets. And humanity has something your empire forgot it had," Dr. Price said. "We have the ability to grow, to change, to become something new when the old ways don't work anymore." Emperor Vashtok made his decision. "I will return to the imperial capital. The High Council will hear of what happened here, but I cannot promise they will choose wisdom over tradition. That's their choice to make," President Hayes said. "But they should know that humanity will share our quantum technology with any species that wants to defend itself against conquest." The threat was clear. If the Valyrian Empire continued its expansion, it would face not just humanity, but an alliance of species armed with reality-bending weapons. Slowly, carefully, the quantum cascade began to power down. The black distortions in space faded as Dr. Webb and his operators gradually returned local physics to normal. The Valyrian fleet found itself free to leave, but many ships seemed reluctant to go. Emperor Vashtok's final message was broadcast to both his fleet and the human ships. "This is not over, but perhaps it is the beginning of something new." 6 months later, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the new space station humanity had built near Earth. The Valyrian Empire had fractured, with many systems declaring independence. Some Valyrian commanders had even asked to join the growing alliance of free worlds. The quantum technology was being shared freely with any species that promised to use it only for defense. The galaxy was changing, becoming more chaotic, but also more alive with possibilities. Dr. Webb continued his research, pushing deeper into the mysteries of consciousness and reality. He had discovered that humans weren't the only species capable of quantum manipulation, just the first to try it. Other races were learning to dream impossible dreams and make them real. On Earth, children looked up at skies filled with peaceful ships from countless worlds. The darkness that had once threatened to consume them had become the foundation for a brighter future. Humanity had proven that sometimes the greatest strength came not from accepting the way things were, but from refusing to believe they had to stay that way. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and for the first time in galactic history, every species was free to explore it in their own unique way. News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the Galactic Trade Federation headquarters on Proxima Station, Ambassador Karen Foster found herself suddenly popular. Species that had ignored humanity for decades were now requesting urgent meetings. The Zephyrian Council, a race of peaceful traders, sent their first diplomatic message to Earth in 20 years. The Insectoid Hive Collective offered military alliance agreements. Even the mysterious Shadow Consortium, emerged from their hidden worlds to establish contact. It seems everyone wants to be friends with the species that made Valyrian weapons. Disappear, Karen told President Hayes during their secure communication. Half the galaxy is asking how we did it. The other half is offering to help us fight the Empire. But President Hayes knew this was just the calm before the storm. Deep space sensors had detected something terrifying approaching the solar system. The Valyrian First Armada was coming. 2,000 ships moved through hyperspace toward Earth, led by Emperor Vashtok himself. The ancient ruler had governed the Valyrian Empire for over 3 centuries. He had personally overseen the conquest of 50 star systems. No species had ever defeated him. His flagship, the Dominion Eternal, was 50 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The massive ship was accompanied by planet killers, reality anchors, and weapons designed to suppress exotic physics. Emperor Vashtok was taking no chances with the troublesome humans. Admiral Zeethkar has failed me for the last time, the Emperor told his war council. The surviving admiral knelt before the throne, his reptilian body trembling. These humans have insulted the Empire's honor. They will be erased from existence as an example to all who defy order. On Earth, Dr. Nathan Webb faced the most difficult decision of his life. The quantum network had performed perfectly in the first battle, but what he was planning now was far more dangerous. Project Blackout Phase 2 required pushing their generators beyond all safety limits. Nathan, are you sure about this? Dr. Lisa Chun asked as they stood in the main control room. Around them, technicians prepared for something that had never been tested at full scale. If we don't try, humanity dies, Nathan replied. If we do try and it fails, we might destroy the solar system. But at least we'll take some of them with U.S. Phase 2 meant activating every quantum generator in human space simultaneously. The resulting cascade effect would create reality distortions on a scale never before attempted. Space-time itself would become a weapon. President Hayes, now operating from a bunker deep under Antarctica, gave the authorization. Do it. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Captain Morrison prepared the human fleet for what everyone knew would be the final battle. 200 ships, everything humanity could gather, took positions around Earth. It wasn't nearly enough to stop 2,000 Valyrian vessels, but they would make the aliens pay for every meter of space. The UES Phantom, now leading a squadron of 12 quantum-equipped ships, readied its most advanced systems. Colonel Rodriguez and her pilots had trained for this moment their entire careers. Today they would find out if human consciousness really could overcome impossible odds. When Emperor Vashtok's armada arrived at Earth, the sight was terrifying. The massive fleet filled space like a metal storm, blotting out the stars. The Dominion Eternal alone was larger than some human cities, bristling with weapons that could crack continents. Citizens of Earth, the Emperor's voice boomed across all communication channels. You have defied the natural order. You have used forbidden technologies. Your species will now pay the ultimate price. The Emperor's ship began charging its primary weapon, a device capable of igniting Earth's atmosphere and boiling its oceans. Around him, 2,000 Valyrian ships prepared to turn humanity's home world into molten rock. But Dr. Webb was ready. All stations initiate Blackout Phase 2. Full cascade activation in 3, 2, 1. Across the solar system, 3,000. Quantum generators pushed past their safety limits. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Reality itself began to warp around human positions as the laws of physics became increasingly flexible. Space around Earth turned black, not from ships or smoke, but from visible distortions in space-time. Stars flickered and danced as gravity waves washed across the solar system. The very fabric of the universe groaned under the strain of humanity's quantum manipulation. Emperor Vashtok stared in shock as his sensors went completely insane. What is happening? Report. His science officers worked frantically at their stations. Emperor, local space-time is becoming unstable. Multiple dimensional rifts detected. The humans appear to be weaponizing reality itself. The battle began with the Emperor trying to retreat, but Dr. Webb had anticipated this. The quantum cascade wasn't just a weapon, it was a trap. Every Valyrian ship within the solar system found itself caught in a web of altered physics, unable to escape to hyperspace. The hyperspace jump drives aren't working, reported a Valyrian navigator. Something is preventing dimensional transition. Captain Morrison led the final assault against impossible odds. Human ships, now operating in spaces where normal physics no longer applied, began attacks that defied explanation. They appeared in multiple locations simultaneously, fired weapons that existed in several dimensions at once, and moved through time as easily as through space. The Phantom performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. Colonel Rodriguez's ship attacked the same target from past, present, and future simultaneously. To the Valyrians, it looked like the ship had multiplied itself through time. But the most shocking development came when human quantum fields began affecting Valyrian consciousness directly. Emperor Vashtok, accustomed to absolute certainty, in his superiority, suddenly experienced human emotions and thoughts. He felt human creativity, the chaotic imagination that refused to accept limitations. He experienced human stubbornness, the refusal to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. Most disturbing of all, he felt human hope, the belief that impossible things could become possible through will and determination. This cannot be, he whispered as his worldview cracked. For 3 centuries, he had ruled through strength and certainty. But humans had achieved the impossible through pure refusal to accept defeat. Dr. Amanda Price, now aboard the Liberty, monitored the quantum cascade as it reached critical levels. Nathan, the field generators are redlining. If we push much further, we could tear holes in space-time itself. Hold the line, Webb replied. We're almost there. Around Earth, the battle raged between 2,000 advanced alien ships and 200 human vessels equipped with reality-bending technology. But it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a demonstration of what happened when an unstoppable force met truly immovable human determination. Valyrian ships found their weapons ineffective against targets that existed in multiple dimensions. Their shields couldn't protect against attacks that came from parallel timelines. Their superior technology meant nothing against enemies who could rewrite the rules of engagement. Emperor Vashtok, his certainty shattered by direct contact with human consciousness, made a decision. That shocked his entire fleet. All ships cease fire. Open communication channels to the human command. The shooting stopped. In the sudden silence, filled only by the groaning of twisted space-time, 2 civilizations faced each other across an impossible gap. One built on technological superiority and absolute order, the other on chaotic creativity and the refusal to accept limits. The final confrontation was about to begin, not with weapons, but with ideas that would determine the future of the galaxy. The Valyrian 7th Fleet moved through space like a school of metal sharks. Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastation, watching the primitive human solar system grow larger on his screens. 500 of the Empire's finest warships followed behind him, enough firepower to burn a dozen worlds. He had done this many times before. The humans would panic, then surrender, then serve the Empire like all the others. It was always the same pattern. Admiral, we are approaching the outer planets, reported his tactical officer. Should we begin the demonstration? Zethkar looked at his display showing the red planet the humans called Mars. several small colonies dotted its surface. Maybe a few thousand humans total. Perfect for showing Earth what would happen to them. Target the largest settlement. Full plasma bombardment. I want the humans to see their colonists burn. Yes, Admiral. The Devastation and 20 other ships turned toward Mars. Their massive plasma cannons began charging, building up enough energy to melt rock and boil atmosphere. On Earth, billions of humans would watch their people die and know they had no hope. But as the first plasma bolts streaked toward Mars, something impossible happened. The energy beams simply vanished. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, as if space itself had swallowed them. What happened? Zethkar demanded. His tactical officer stared at his instruments. I don't know, sir. The plasma just disappeared. Sensors show no impact on the planet's surface. Fire again, full spread. This time, 50 ships opened fire on Mars at once. Enough plasma to crack the planet's crust shot through space. But again, the energy vanished before reaching its target. Worse, Zethkar-S instruments were going crazy. Space around Mars looked wrong somehow, like reality was bending. On Mars, inside a hidden control bunker, Lieutenant Mark Davis watched his quantum field generators absorb the alien attack. The energy didn't just disappear. It was converted into quantum foam and dispersed across multiple dimensions. The Valyrian weapons might as well have been shooting at empty space. This is Mars Control to Earth Command, he said into his communicator. First test successful. Quantum barriers are holding perfectly. Back on Earth, in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Dr. Webb smiled as he monitored the network. Phase 1 is working. The aliens can't hurt our colonies. Captain Morrison stood beside him, watching the displays in amazement. How is that possible? We're not blocking their weapons, Dr. Chon explained. We're changing the local laws of physics so their weapons can't exist in the same space as our colonies. Admiral Zethkar was furious. In 30 years of conquest, no species had ever made his weapons simply stop working. Analysis. What kind of technology is this? His science officer, a thin alien with multiple arms, worked frantically at his station. Admiral, I'm detecting massive quantum field fluctuations around the human colonies. The energy patterns are completely unknown to us. Unknown how? Sir, the quantum fields appear to be controlled by conscious thought rather than technology. It should be impossible, but the patterns match neural activity signatures. Zethkar stared at the officer. You're saying the humans are controlling quantum physics with their minds? It's the only explanation that fits the data, sir. Before Zethkar could respond, his communication officer spoke up. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're approaching our position. Captain Morrison led 30 human ships toward the Valyrian fleet. The U's Liberty flew at the front, followed by every combat vessel humanity could gather. Against 500 alien dreadnoughts, it looked like suicide, but hidden among the human ships was the U's Phantom, commanded by Colonel Amy Rodriguez. The ship looked like an ordinary cruiser, but inside, quantum field generators hummed with strange energy. All ships, this is Morrison. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're showing them that the rules have changed. The battle began normally. Valyrian ships opened fire with plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Human vessels took heavy damage as their weaker shields failed under the massive assault. 3 human ships exploded in the first minute. Admiral Zethkar watched with satisfaction. Finally, a normal battle. Destroy them all. But then Colonel Rodriguez activated the Phantom's quantum displacement drive. The ship didn't just move through space. It moved through dimensions. One moment it was in normal space, taking fire from Valyrian weapons. The next moment it phased into a parallel dimension where the enemy ships existed. But their shields did not. the Phantom appeared inside the shield bubble of a massive Valyrian dreadnought. Rodriguez fired antimatter torpedoes directly into the enemy ship's reactor core. The alien vessel exploded from the inside, its shields useless against an attack that came from within. "Impossible!" Sethkar shouted as he watched his ship die. "How did they get through our shields?" The Phantom vanished. Again, reappearing inside another dreadnought. Another explosion lit up space as the alien ship died. And another. And another. But the real surprise came when Colonel Gary Thompson activated Earth's orbital defense platforms. What had looked like simple weapon satellites suddenly revealed their true nature. Quantum artillery systems that fired shells existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The shells passed through Valyrian shields like they weren't there, because in the dimension where the shells traveled, the shields didn't exist. Only when they reached the enemy hull did they phase back into normal space and explode. Sethkar watched his mighty fleet take damage from weapons that made no sense. "How are they ignoring our shields?" His science officer was pale with fear. "Admiral, they're not ignoring our shields. They're attacking from dimensions where our shields don't exist. Our entire defensive strategy is useless against this technology." The tide of battle turned quickly. Human ships, equipped with quantum phase generators, began appearing and disappearing around Valyrian vessels. They would phase out of normal space to avoid enemy fire, then phase back in to attack from impossible angles. Dr. Amanda Price, monitoring alien communications from Earth, translated the increasingly frantic Valyrian messages. Their fleet commanders are reporting reality distortions and impossible weapons. They're asking for reinforcements. In space, Captain Morrison coordinated the human attack. His ships were smaller and fewer, but they could do things the aliens had never seen before. Human vessels appeared inside enemy formations, fired from parallel dimensions, and vanished when the aliens tried to counterattack. But the most shocking moment came when the Phantom performed its ultimate demonstration. Colonel Rodriguez activated the ship's temporal displacement field. The Phantom didn't just move through space and dimensions. It moved through time itself. The ship appeared to attack the same Valyrian dreadnought from 5 different angles simultaneously. Each attack happened at a slightly different moment in time, but to outside observers, they all occurred at once. The alien ship, designed to handle attacks from one direction, couldn't defend against 5 simultaneous strikes from different temporal positions. As the engagement ended, the human fleet had destroyed nearly 100 Valyrian ships, while losing only 12 of their own. The rest of the alien fleet was retreating in confusion. Admiral Sethkar, his flagship damaged and his confidence shattered, sent an emergency message to the Valyrian High Command. "Request immediate reinforcement. Humans possess unknown superweapon technology that defies known physics. Recommend deployment of the first armada with reality anchors." His message included all the sensor data from the battle. Data that showed human ships moving through dimensions, attacking from multiple time streams, and using consciousness to control quantum fields. On Earth, President Hayes addressed the world. The victory was important, but everyone knew it was just the beginning. The Valyrian Empire had thousands of ships. They would be back with everything they had. But for now, humanity had proven something important. The aliens weren't invincible. Their superior technology meant nothing against weapons that operated outside the normal rules of reality. Dr. Webb monitored the quantum network as it powered down from combat mode. "Phase 2 is ready," he told Captain Morrison. "When they come back with their full fleet, we'll show them what happens when humanity stops holding back." The first battle was over. The real war was about to begin. Dr. Nathan Webb walked through the underground corridors of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The hallways were deeper than most people knew. Much deeper. He had been working in these hidden levels for 10 years. And today was the day everything would finally make sense. His colleague, Dr. Lisa Chun, was waiting for him in Laboratory 7. She looked nervous, which was unusual for her. Lisa had always been the calm one, even when their experiments produced results that seemed impossible. "Nathan, have you seen the news?" she asked as he entered the lab. "About the aliens?" "Yes, the whole world is talking about it." Lisa pulled up a holographic display showing news feeds from around the globe. Crowds of people filled the streets in every major city. Some were praying, others were rioting, most were just scared. "Do you think they know?" Lisa asked quietly. Nathan looked at the massive equipment that filled the laboratory. Machines that officially didn't exist. Technology that broke every known law of physics. No, they still think we're helpless. For 20 years, since humanity first detected alien signals, a small group of scientists had been working on a secret project. While the rest of the world built bigger rockets and better computers, these scientists had taken a different path. They studied something most people didn't even think was real: the connection between human consciousness and the basic structure of reality. "The transport is ready," Lisa said. "Captain Morrison should be here within the hour." Nathan nodded. Captain Morrison was about to learn that humanity's response to the alien threat wasn't what anyone expected. Not even the aliens. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, Captain Morrison guided the U.S. Liberty toward a docking bay hidden inside what looked like an ordinary space station. The bay doors opened to reveal a facility much larger than it appeared from outside. As soon as his ship was secured, military personnel escorted him to a shuttle that took him down to Earth. He found himself in the Cheyenne Mountain complex, but not the parts he had visited before. These corridors were unmarked and went deeper into the mountain than he thought possible. Finally, he arrived at a door labeled only with a number, 7. Inside. He met Dr. Nathan Webb and Dr. Lisa Chun. Both scientists looked tired but excited, like people who had been waiting years to share a secret. "Captain Morrison," Dr. Webb said, shaking his hand. "Thank you for coming. I know you have questions." "A few," Jake replied. "Like what exactly is Project Blackout?" Dr. Chun activated a holographic display that showed a map of the solar system. Red dots appeared throughout space, marking locations Jake didn't recognize. Mars had dozens of them. So did the asteroid belt. Even Earth's moon showed several markers. "Captain, what do you know about quantum physics?" Dr. Webb asked. Jake shrugged. "The basics. Particles can be in two places at once. Observation changes reality. That kind of thing. That's more than most people know." "Now, what if I told you that human consciousness is uniquely suited to manipulating quantum fields?" "I'd ask what you mean." Dr. Chun stepped forward. "Every species we've encountered thinks of the universe as fixed. Laws of physics that cannot be changed. But humans are different. We dream. We imagine. We refuse to accept limitations." She touched a control, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed energy patterns flowing between the red dots, connecting them in a vast network that covered the entire solar system. "For 20 years, we've been building quantum field generators," Dr. Webb explained. "To everyone else, they look like atmospheric processors, mining equipment, communication relays. But they're actually reality anchors." Jake stared at the display. "Reality anchors?" "Devices that allow us to change how physics works in localized areas, make energy behave differently, alter the properties of matter, even affect time and space." "That's impossible," Dr. Chon smiled. 5 years ago, we thought so too. Then we discovered that human brains naturally generate quantum field fluctuations. Something about the way we think, the way we dream, creates tiny changes in reality around us. Dr. Webb pulled up another display, this one showing brain scans. Other species think in straight lines, logical patterns. Humans think in chaos. We make random connections. We believe impossible things. And somehow, that chaos translates into quantum effects. Jake looked at both scientists. You're telling me that human imagination can change the laws of physics? In small ways, yes. But when we amplify those effects with our quantum generators and connect human operators across the solar system, Dr. Webb paused. Well, we can do things that should be impossible. At that moment, alarms began sounding throughout the complex. A voice came over the intercom. All personnel to stations. The Lyrian fleet detected its system edge. Estimated time. To Earth, 60 hours. Jake felt his blood run cold. The aliens were ahead of schedule. Dr. Chun was already moving to a control panel. Nathan, is the network online? Ringing it up now. Dr. Webb's fingers flew across holographic controls. Throughout the solar system, hidden generators began to hum with power. Mars colonies report ready. Asteroid mining stations are active. Luna Base is showing green across the board. What about the Phantom? Jake asked. Both scientists looked at him in surprise. You know about the Phantom? Dr. Webb asked. I know it exists. I don't know what it does. Dr. Chun smiled. The use. Phantom is our first fully operational quantum warfare platform. It can phase between dimensions, ignore enemy shields, even manipulate time flow around itself. Colonel Amy Rodriguez commands it. Jake knew Rodriguez. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, but he had always wondered why she disappeared. For months at a time on classified missions. Captain, Dr. Webb said seriously, I need you to understand something. The weapons we've built don't work like normal weapons. They require human operators with specific mental training. People who can think in the chaotic patterns that quantum fields respond to. How many people have this training? About 3,000 spread across the solar system. Each one can operate multiple quantum generators simultaneously. Dr. Chun brought up a new display showing the approaching Valyrian fleet. 500 massive ships moving toward Earth like a wall of destruction. The aliens expect us to fight with missiles and energy weapons, she said. They expect us to follow the normal rules of warfare. They have no idea that humans found a completely different approach. Jake studied the display. The Valyrian ships were enormous, heavily armed, and protected by shields that could stop nuclear weapons. Against traditional weapons, humanity didn't stand a chance. What happens when they get here? He asked. Dr. Webb looked at the approaching fleet. We show them that reality is more flexible than they think. We demonstrate that human consciousness, when properly focused, can rewrite the rules they depend on. And if it doesn't work? Dr. Chun was quiet for a moment. Then she said, and at least we'll surprise them before we die. Outside the laboratory, news reports showed panic spreading across Earth. World leaders were making speeches about humanity's determination to fight. Stock markets had collapsed completely. Religious groups proclaimed the end times, but deep underground, and in hidden facilities throughout the solar system, 3,000 specially trained humans were taking their positions at quantum field generators. They had spent years learning to think in the chaotic patterns that could bend reality. Now they would find out if human imagination was stronger than alien technology. The countdown continued. 60 hours until the Valyrian fleet arrived. 60 hours to discover whether humanity's greatest strength was their refusal to accept that. Anything was truly impossible. In space, the alien ships continued their approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Zethkar had crushed hundreds of species. He expected the humans to surrender or die like all the others. He had no idea that humans had spent 20 years preparing to break every rule of warfare he understood. The real battle was about to begin. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty, staring at the stars through the massive viewport. Earth hung below them like a blue jewel, peaceful and quiet. He had no idea that in the next few minutes, everything would change. Forever. The communication officer, Lieutenant Sam Parker, suddenly looked up from his station. His face was pale. "Captain, we're getting a priority transmission. It's coming from outside the solar system." Jake frowned. "Who's sending it?" "Unknown, sir, but the signal is incredibly strong. Much stronger than anything we've seen before." Jake walked over to Sam's station. Put it on the main screen. The viewport flickered and changed. Instead of stars, they now saw the face of something. That was definitely not human. The creature had green-scaled skin, bright yellow eyes, and rows of sharp teeth. Scars covered its face like battle wounds. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "I am Admiral Zethkar of the Valyrian Empire. I speak to the primitive species known as humans." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. The Valyrian Empire. Every human in space had heard stories about them. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Their ships could destroy entire planets. And now they were talking to Earth. "Your species has expanded beyond your home world without permission," the alien continued. "You have taken technology that does not belong to you. You have disturbed the natural order of this galaxy." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was frozen, staring at the screen. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. "Therefore, the Valyrian Empire demands your immediate and complete surrender. You have 72 hours to respond. If you refuse, your world will be destroyed. Your species will be eliminated. This is not negotiation. This is your only warning." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody said anything. Then Jake's training kicked in. "Sam, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." "Yes, sir." While Sam worked, Jake's mind raced. 72 hours. 3 days to decide the fate of humanity. He looked at Earth again, thinking about the 8 billion people living their normal lives down there. Most of them didn't even know aliens existed. "Sir, I have President Linda Hayes on the line." Jake took a deep breath. "Put her through." Screen changed again. This time it showed a woman in her 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. She was sitting in what looked like the Oval Office, but Jake could see military officers moving around behind her. "Captain Morrison, I assume you received the same message we did." "Yes, ma'am. The entire transmission was recorded. We're sending you all the technical data now." "Good. I need you to return to Earth immediately. We're calling an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council." Jake nodded. "What about the rest of the fleet?" "Every ship is coming home. We need to count what we have." President Hayes paused. "Jake, how bad is this?" Jake had served in the military for 20 years. He had fought in 3 different wars. He had seen humanity's best weapons in action. But he had also read the intelligence reports about the Valyrian Empire. "Ma'am, if the reports are true, we're facing the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They have over 2,000 ships in their main fleet. Each one is bigger and more advanced than anything we've built. And how many ships do we have?" Jake closed his eyes. 89, Mom, including cargo ships and research vessels. The silence stretched between them. Finally, President Hayes spoke again. "Get down here, Captain. We have work to do." 2 hours later, Jake sat in a secure conference room deep under the White House. Around the table were the most important people in human government and military. President Hayes sat at the head of the table. To her right was General Frank Coleman, head of Earth's combined military forces. To her left was Dr. Amanda Price, the world's leading expert on alien biology. General Coleman was speaking. The situation is simple. We cannot win a direct fight. The Valyrians have better ships, better weapons, and better shields. One of their dreadnoughts could destroy our entire fleet. What about our nuclear weapons? Asked Defense Secretary Robert. Clark, useless, Dr. Price said. Valyrian shields can stop direct nuclear strikes. We tested this theory 3 years ago when we captured one of their scout ships. Our biggest bombs barely scratched their weakest shields. President Hayes looked around the table. So what are our options? We could surrender, said Secretary of State Karen Foster. Maybe negotiate terms. Dr. Price shook her head. I've been studying their communications. They're not planning to let us live as slaves. They want to harvest human brain tissue for their biocomputers. They see us as a resource to be collected. The room went quiet. Jake felt sick. He thought about his daughter living in New York, about his parents in California, about 8 billion innocent people who had no idea what was coming. There has to be something, President Hayes said. Some weakness we can exploit. General Coleman pulled up a holographic display showing the Valyrian fleet. They're already moving. Our deep space sensors picked them up an hour ago. 500 ships moving toward Earth at high speed. They'll be here in less than 3 days. Jake stared at the display. 500 ships, each one capable of burning continents, against 89 human ships that were built for exploration, not war. Ma'am, Jake said, what about the classified projects? The ones even the military doesn't know about? President Hayes and General Coleman exchanged a look. For a moment, Jake thought he saw something pass between them. A secret, maybe, or hope. Captain, President Hayes said carefully, there are some projects that require the highest security clearance. Projects that were started 20 years ago when we first learned about other species in the galaxy. Are you saying we have secret weapons? I'm saying that humanity has always been good at surviving impossible situations. We've been preparing for this day since we first looked at the stars and wondered what else was out there. General Coleman leaned forward. Jake, I need you to take the Liberty to the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. There's someone there who wants to meet you. Someone who might have answers. Jake felt a spark of hope. Maybe humanity wasn't as helpless as it seemed. Maybe. There was still a chance. Outside the conference room, emergency sirens were starting to sound. News of the alien ultimatum was spreading across Earth. In major cities, people were panicking. Stock markets were crashing. Religious leaders were calling it the end of the world. But deep underground, in secret facilities around the world, other systems were quietly coming online. Systems that had been waiting 20 years for this moment. Systems that would show the Valyrian Empire that humans were full of surprises. The countdown to invasion had begun. 72 hours to save the human race. Jake Morrison had no idea that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't hidden in some secret base. It was hidden in the very nature of what made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. The war for war. Earth was about to begin.